What's up YouTube, and welcome to this preview for Play It Painted, and this preview is going to be concerning the skirmish game Arena Rex, which recently arrived via Kickstarter. Arena Rex by Red Republic Games. Now this is a gladiatorial game of 2 or more players set in a sort of Roman times, so we're talking Roman gladiators. However, the factions reflect different nationalities and different backgrounds as well. So Arena Rex, you can see this is the rule book here. It's not a large rule book. That said, it's a very high quality. I love the quality of the paper. The artwork is phenomenal. Love the artwork and love the styling of Arena Rex. And so this is essentially, Arena Rex is essentially a combat dice game set to a skirmish mode. Now normally they're saying that you're going to be running anywhere from say 4 to a dozen or so. Maybe at the very largest battles might be a dozen or so models. Most of the time you're going to be running between say 6 to 10, I would think. So the game itself is on the surface is fairly simple. You have a basic activation order that you go through, and you can move your models. You can take actions with them, like you can perform attacks with them, and those actions are based on a fatigue mechanic. So you can add fatigue to your models as you're moving them across the board, and then you can take say a third action typically to so you'd add a fatigue mechanic to them, and then you would actually you can actually activate them to exhaustion, at which point the only thing you can do after that is to do a clear turn, which will remove some of these fatigue tokens and allow you to employ say tactics, for example. So this is an alternating activation game. It is typically played on say a 2x2 arena board that should have that has some guidelines in the rule book about placing columns or placing pits. There are even rules for beasts that can be in the arena as well. So like I was saying, yes, this is a D6 based system that uses a fatigue mechanic for activation. And then it also has, let me go through these cards really quick here. So you have the movement of the model, the attack in terms of how many dice the model's rolling for attack, the amount of dice that the model rolls for defense, and then the armor of the character, which reduces total damage. Successes in this game are typically 4s or better. So when one model's attacking another model, they're basically they roll their attack dice versus the model rolls their defense dice, and each side counts up the number of successes that they roll, the difference of which becomes either the number of hits, or if all of the hits are successfully nullified by defense rolls, then no hits are scored. Now what's interesting about this game is we're looking at Beatrix, her character card here, is the sort of a damage tree. So what happens is, based on the number of hits that you perform, you would work your way down this tree and follow the effects. So for example, you've got a push here. A push pushes the model away from you 1 inch and then does a point of damage. And then you've got a set number here, 3. And then you've got a mechanic here to actually gain what is called favor. And that's another resource in the game. You can actually gain or lose favor to roll dice in combat. And the favor dice are actually weighted a little bit more heavily than a regular dice. In other words, a success on a favor dice actually counts as 2 successes. So, for example, you can see that each character has a different damage chart here. So you can see if you're playing Mago, for example, you can just rack up a bunch of damage here, or you can start with a push, do damage, and do another push, and so on. Their life chart is here at the bottom, and the other thing that you should note is as you progress through your life chart, you're going to gain favor. So favor is a mechanic that you can gain by, like say, drawing first blood, or taking damage, or there are other mechanics in the game that allow you to draw favor. Abilities for the characters are on the back of the card. You can see, though, they're pretty straightforward, and the cards are glossy, which is nice, so you don't necessarily have to laminate them if you're using a dry erase marker. I'm going to do that anyway because, you know, obviously your cards will still these will still deteriorate over time. So here's a few different examples of models. Vargr and Sven, I believe, are from a different faction here than the other two I was showing here. These are Ludus Magnus models, I believe, for Beatrix and Mago. But yeah, that's the essential parts of the game. Is that is mainly this combat system that you're going to work through. And Arena Rex does have its own scenarios and gives you, here are some ideas about terrain. So on its surface, it seems a very simple game. In fact, it is a very, very simple game to learn at its root. That combat system should be fairly familiar to folks that are regularly playing miniatures games. And then you add the resource mechanic of favor and also the activation mechanic of fatigue. And it's still a fairly simple yet highly tactical game. But this is Play It Painted, so let's go ahead and get to the part that we want to add as part of this preview here, which are the models. So here's a model sprue. This is Hermes. And you can see the nice Red Republic sprue here. These models are resin, so you're going to have to do some cleanup. You're going to have to wash these with some detergent, a mild detergent. Then you're going to have to clip them loose. Now the one thing I'll point out here is you can see here, the amount of detail is phenomenal on these. They're fantastic. They're really, really strong detail there. These are feathers, which is good and bad when you think about it. Yes, it's awesome that you have this crazy amount of detail in something like feathers, but you know, I can imagine myself trying to go at these with some sprue cutters, or even, you know, the delicate hobby knife. Wow, mine is really jacked up. And it's still gonna be a tricky proposal. There's some cleanup to be done. There's some like kind of clear flash that happens on these that you're gonna have to remove. There is the occasional mold line, but again, typically the model clarity is phenomenal. The fragility of the models is a concern for me. It is a specific concern because you're going to be pushing these models around. You're going to be picking up other people's models, and with stuff like tiny little feathers on helmets and you know, flimsy thin swords and that kind of stuff, it is a concern that your models may take a beating playing this game. One thing I will say that I really like are these base inserts, which are just fantastic. These are plastic, and we're trying to come up with things that we can do with these bases, and I'm going to show you an example here in a minute from the first 4 models that I painted. So I'm just going to reach over here and start showing you some models. This is Mago. So again, these are highly detailed models. You can see just the amount of flesh that goes on there, and I find that these models are great for, you know, and I'm going for a kind of a more stylized look here with the NMM, and just almost the way I've done the flesh here. It's kind of like a cell, almost like cell shading, but these are rounded features here. I'm going to point out a couple things here on Sven. So this is Sven. One thing to note, the bent spear here, I've been trying to rectify that. Now you can apply heat to this, you can apply them, you can do the hot water bath, and that tends to work, but with the pieces flimsy, I was a little more tender with it and just trying to get it to form back without snapping. So that was interesting. So this is Sven. Again, the amount of detail is phenomenal on these. Put Sven right down there. This is Vargr, one of the Zephyri models, and you can see I actually glued him on incorrectly. He should be sort of skipping, if you believe. Now it looks like he's just sort of, you know, trying to scalp a small child. But no, that's not what he's trying to do. I put him on wrong, so he's actually facing down. Now for the bases, I'm going to try to catch this on film. You can see I did kind of a stylized marble effect there, and you can see the glossy sheen there from these. I did a video on how to do my marble effect. It's essentially just glazes and you know, putting the veining in and using different glazes and then a gloss at the end of it. And then here's the final model that I've been working on. This is Beatrix. So I really like her. Now you can see the feathers on the hat. This feather actually looks like it's missing a tiny piece, even though I tried to keep it all together. I am super terrified to touch these feathers. Gluing them in was tough enough. Again, these are resin, so you can't really use plastic cement. You have to use super glue. And to get those feathers to stay in these tiny little holes that they put for them is challenging indeed. But here's Beatrix. Super, super fun models to paint, you guys. Super fun. I've got to say, the quality of these models is just phenomenal, and I love them. And you can see you can see the very subtle veining there on the marbleized bases. Phil is doing them in a gravel, which is probably the wiser thing to do. It's a little bit faster and, you know, simulates the sand of the arena. But I look at these and I really am thinking like almost, you know, Roman marble. And it's not realistic at all, but again, I'm going for, you know, a kind of a highly fictionalized, almost a mythological look to them. Love the models. Love the models. Degree of difficulty on these models is very high, though. If you're new to miniature gaming, proceed with caution. If you are used to working with a specific manufacturer, say plastic, that's doing hard plastic, or if you're, you know, working with, say, only Privateer Press, or you haven't worked with, you know, some of this really high, this really fine detail resin, again, be very, very gentle with these models. They're also very light too, so I may actually look at some ways to kind of give them a little bit of weight, a little bit of strength. And as you can see, a lot of the models just kind of attach at very, very tiny points onto the bases, so that's another thing to be aware of. Overall, Arena Rex is a fantastic experience building, painting from, I would say, almost more of a collector, someone who really does enjoy the building and painting aspect, the fine detail that needs to go into, you know, blending the skin, getting all that musculature right on the model. That's a big part of Arena Rex, and, you know, I think it really is for people that really do and love and enjoy painting. The game itself is very fun. It's light at its surface, but it can be very, very tactical. We're gonna play some more of these games, and I'm looking forward to it. Yeah, overall, I'd say Arena Rex is a great game. I don't know that it's a main system at this point. I would almost consider it a side game. As you guys know, I play mostly the Ninja Division games, so that's going to be my main focus. Arena Rex is just that fun little indulgence, though, with these beautiful models, fun gameplay. It's going to be great for multiplayer. And we'll see what kind of presence Arena Rex can actually gain with a retailer, because Red Republic is a small company. However, I really do think they've got a very fun game here in Arena Rex. I am kind of split down the middle because I do love the painting and modeling aspect of the fine resin miniatures on one hand, but in terms of gameplay, in terms of, you know, pushing these around and letting other people pick them up, that does scare me quite a bit. So this video has gone on long enough. I think I'm gonna cut it off here. Want to thank you guys for watching. I think at some point I will have enough painted so that myself and maybe another member from the Play It Painted crew can get together and film a bat rep for you guys. So that's going to be it for this video. I want to thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.